Hey, my name's Claire, and for my case study today, I'm going to be talking about the character Villanelle from the BBC TV series Killing Eve. Just a quick disclaimer before we start, there will be some show spoilers in this case study and analysis, so if you're planning on watching this show or you're in the middle of watching it, just keep that in mind that I will be talking about all 3 seasons. So before I start discussing how Villanelle scored on the PCLR, I'm going to give some background information. Villanelle, who's pictured on the right, is originally named Oksana Ostenkova, but instead took up the nickname Villanelle. From a young age, she was sent to an orphanage because her mom believed that she had a very dark personality. Growing up, she became obsessive of a teacher named Anna Onmakova, and they started dating. She got jealous of Anna's boyfriend, so she ended up killing him, and he was her first kill that sent her to prison. A man named Constantine heard of her crimes while she was in prison and ended up helping her break out of prison. She then started working for Constantine in an organization called the 12 as an assassin, killing well over 30 people. On the left is Eve Pilastri, an investigative agent working for a British intelligence agency called MI6. After a string of brutal murders, Villanelle gets her attention. Eve makes it her main goal to find out more about Villanelle. She then becomes obsessed with finding out more about her that it puts a strain on both her career as well as her relationship with her husband. After going through the items on the PCLR, I ended up giving Villanelle a score of 30, which means that she's a primary psychopath. So for these next couple slides, I'm going to be going through the different items and talking about the different examples and reasons why I gave her the scores that I did. Alright, so for the first item on the checklist, glibness and superficial charm, I gave Villanelle a score of 2. My reasoning behind this was because she takes on different personas in order to gain the trust of her victims. She has also been referenced as attention seeking. I also wanted to note that she's always very well dressed and looks like she's very put together, which kind of shows that she's taking on this like important persona of, acting like she's this well put together, successful person, when in reality she's an assassin that kills people. And I also wanted to note that she knows how to read people very well. And she's able to kind of take the readings that she has of people and kind of mimic them as well, which there's multiple examples of this in the series. So for the second item, grandiose sense of self-worth, I ended up giving her a 1. Just because she is overly confident in her ability to carry out assassination orders, and then she also uses people as a means to an end, and she definitely thinks that the only person she can truly trust is herself. And then an example of this is in season 1. There is a scene in one of the episodes where she's in a psychiatrist appointment, and during the evaluation, the psychiatrist is kind of like asking her questions, and during the whole thing, she treats it as if it was a joke, kind of like starts crying to kind of make the psychiatrist think that he's like having a breakthrough, and then she ends up laughing at him. So I'm just going to show a quick clip of this, just to kind of give everyone like a visual example of this behavior.
When was the last time you worked?
Yesterday.
Was it a successful mission?
Yes. I shot him twice in the heart and watched the spark drain from his eyes.
Did you talk to him?
A little. He said he had children and offered me money.
What did you feel when he said those things?
Impatient.
Alright, so that last clip also kind of fits in for this third item, need for stimulation and proneness for boredom, which I scored her a 2. Villanelle, she gets bored very easily, and if a plan goes wrong or takes too long, she definitely gets impatient very quickly and will end up either killing more victims or, engaging in overkill with the victim as well. I also wanted to note that she'll play with victims for her own entertainment. So there are some cases where she'll pretend to let a victim go, and then while they're running away, she'll shoot them or kill them in some other way. So, just kind of using their death as a way to entertain herself. All right, so for item number 4, pathological lying, I scored her a 2. Um, she'll pretend to be other people in order to disguise herself if she's targeting certain victims, so pretend to be other people. She also just lies about stating that she's not going to do something, but then she ends up doing it. One good example of her pathological lying was in season 3. She ends up getting married, as someone stated, just for the convenience of it. She didn't tell her partner, what her job was, that she was an assassin, that she's killed people. So just kind of living that double life as well. So for item 5, conning manipulative, I scored Villanelle a 2 for this one. She notes people's weaknesses and takes advantage of them. And then she also constantly manipulates Eve by leaving breadcrumbs for her to kind of come and find her. She, in season 1, she sent her some perfume and designer dress, knowing that Eve was kind of intrigued by her and wanted to find where she was and kind of learn more about her. So she kind of used that to her own advantage and kind of played with Eve and toyed with her a little bit like that. And then she also she plays with and cons her victims as if they were more like objects rather than humans. All right, so for item 6, lack of remorse or guilt, I scored her a 2. She doesn't really show any remorse for her crimes. A lot of it seemed to be simply like a job for her. That her job is an assassin. So, except the only time I did see kind of a glimmer of remorse was when she told Constantine, who is her kind of her boss or her handler, who he kind of gives her the targets of the people that she needs to kill. She told him that she had killed her mom, which in this picture right here, she ended up blowing up the house that her mom was sleeping in. So other than that, I haven't really seen any signs of guilt. However, after she killed her mom, she did start to get sloppy with her murders, and she started claiming to Constantine and to a couple other people that she didn't want to, be an assassin anymore. She didn't want to do it. Instead, she wanted to kind of give tasks and give targets to other people. So that was kind of one sign of guilt she had for killing her mom. So for item 7, shallow affect, I scored Villanelle a 1 for this one. She does have a couple qualities that kind of show, like a shallow affect, but there are also a couple times where she doesn't act as shallow. For example, in season 3, she returns back to her hometown and is reunited with her half brother Boris, and she seems genuinely excited to see him. During the same trip, she also spared her half brother Borka's life after blowing up the house to kill her mother. And he's pictured in this image right here. She also gave him a large amount of money so that he could go travel to see his favorite performer, Elton John. I think she does genuinely feel sorry for Borka. It was shown in this episode that her mother was also kind of psychologically abusing and emotionally abusing Borka. The same thing that she did to Villanelle when she was a kid. So I think she does feel a little bit sorry for. I think she does feel sorry for Borka, and she, although she did kill both of their mom, she did give him, she provided him with money and a way out, so he could go travel and then as well see his favorite performer, Elton John. All right, so for item number 8, callous lack of empathy, I scored Villanelle a 2. She continues to kill victims with no issue at all. She does seem to, want to feel emotions such as love or compassion, but she just doesn't have the tools to either show love or compassion or to, physically even just feel it herself. An example of her lack of empathy is, I believe in season one, she's assigned a job with a girl named Nadia, who turns out to be her ex girlfriend. Um, and while they were supposed to be working together, she ends up driving her over with a car, with the purpose of killing her. Um, she thought that she had killed her, but then it turns out she hadn't. So after Nadia gets sent to prison, she Villanelle ends up finding her and eventually does end up killing her. And over here, we have a picture of Villanelle and Nadia pointing guns at each other, along with this other man that they were supposed to work with. And during this scene, they all kind of turn against each other, so they're all pointing guns at one another. Also, especially I think in the earlier seasons, she definitely just seems to be following orders and doesn't really have any issue with following out with orders for killing various people, no matter who they are. And then one more example of her lack of empathy was her friend. She and her friend found a baby that had been left, and her friend put it in the trash can, and she started laughing at it. So there's tons of examples where she just doesn't feel empathy towards other people. So next I'm going to show a quick clip of when Eve confronts Villanelle claiming that she can't feel love or any emotions.
You love me.
No.
I love you.
No.
I do.
You don't understand what that is.
I do. You're mine.
No.
You are. You're mine. Eve? Thought you were special.
Sorry to disappoint.
So while Villanelle claims that she loves Eve, she is also treating her as if she is her property by stating, "You are mine." This is not how the average person shows their love, and this is also reinforced by the fact that she shot at Eve towards the end of the scene. Alright, so for item number 9, Parasitic Lifestyle, I scored Villanelle a 2. She has killed, or at least tried to kill, mostly all of her exes. She lured Eve, the investigator, in because Eve wanted to learn more about her. And in doing so, Villanelle essentially ruined Eve's life. Eve did become, super intrigued on about like the workings of Villanelle's kind of mind and like why she is the way she is and why how she's so good at killing and as well as why. And Villanelle also leeches off of Constantine and his family, and he provides her with, especially in the beginning seasons, he provides her with housing and new jobs, but jobs as in new victims and new targets to attack or kill. So for item 9, poor behavioral controls, I scored Villanelle a score of 1. She doesn't control her anger very well, and if she's angry at someone, she will kill them impulsively. She doesn't get along very well with others. An example of this is during one job she was supposed to work with this new younger assassin named Felix, who is pictured on the right in the clown costume. Um, he was too messy in getting the job done, so she ended up killing him because she was angry that he did a messy job of it. So although she does have pretty bad behavioral controls, as seen in the example with Felix, she does seem like she knows how to control it. So if she's about to act poorly and she knows that it's not going to benefit her or that it will end up affecting her negatively, she will control it. Alright, so for item 11, promiscuous sexual behavior, I just scored her a 1. She has had multiple sexual partners, but nothing too, I guess, out of the ordinary. One thing that did stick out, though, was that some of her male victims she castrated. However, I didn't want to give her a 2 because it wasn't done in a sexual way. It was more of kind of like a revenge, angry sort of way rather than sexual. So for item 13, early behavioral problems, for her childhood, there isn't that much information on it, based off of the show. So, but I did score her a 1 because it was mentioned that her mom sent her to an orphanage when she was a kid, because her mom felt like there was some sort of darkness inside of her, or that she had a very dark side. Um, with this in mind, her mother did psychologically abuse her. In one episode, she notices, again, as I mentioned before, that she noticed the mom was doing the same thing to her half brother. Um, there is also, in that same episode, there was also evidence that her mom did have the same similar dark qualities. So whether she passed that on to Villanelle genetically is unclear, but they do definitely share similar, dark kind of emotionless states and personalities. So I scored Villanelle a 1 for lack of realistic long term goals. For the most part, I think she, has a pretty good grasp on what is realistic and what isn't. But in especially the first and second season, she mentioned she kind of wants to live a life with Eve. Although Eve was married for the better part of the time that they knew each other and the series. This can also be seen in season 3 when she wants to be the one to give orders to other assassins and to give them targets to kill, but she's told that that's not going to be a possibility due to how good she is at being an assassin. And she thinks that she can kind of overpower the higher ups and become a higher up person herself in the organization. But it's not looking like that is going to be a reality for her. So I scored Villanelle a score of 1 for impulsivity. She will kill victims who are not the original target, simply because they were either in the way or she didn't like them. She will, she'll go out of her way to kind of kill whoever she wants to kill. And she can be impulsive. However, her actions are mostly thought through. Like when she goes through um, her targets and her victims, she definitely comes up with a plan of action. So in that case, she's not, like, in that sense, she's not very impulsive. But in one scenario where she was impulsive, was when Eve made her upset, so she shot her. Alright, so for irresponsibility, I gave Villanelle a score of 2. For the most part, she just is not reliable. She does get jobs done, however, she usually leaves behind a mess after, killing the victim. In some cases, there are clear signs of overkill as well as like the killing of other people who were not the target in the process. Again, another example of this could be when she killed her supposed work partner Felix while on the job. She was supposed to keep him alive and keep him safe because he was new, but she got angry at him and killed him. She also usually takes control and does her own thing regardless of what others expect or want from her. Alright, so for failure to accept responsibility for her own actions, I give Villanelle a score of a 0 for this. She took responsibility for and admitted her involvement in her own mom's death. It also depends on who she's talking to, if she trusts someone enough to tell them or admit to what she has done. And I scored her a 0 on this because she accepts responsibility for her crimes. She just doesn't care that people know that she committed it. So for many short-term relationships, I scored Villanelle a score of 2. She has been with various partners, and she has also killed most of them. I'd say relationship-wise, she usually just has one person that she kind of focuses on or obsesses over. I believe in the show it's stated that she has done this with 3 people. Um, and then she also, the one time she almost got married, but their wedding was ruined by her longtime mentor, Dasha, who ended up attacking basically everyone at the whole ceremony. and the couple never ended up getting back together. So she moves on to new people pretty quickly. For juvenile delinquency, she only scored a 1. She was sent to an orphanage because her mother didn't know what to do with her and stated that she had kind of like a dark soul, and the things that she would do were, not what your average kid would do. She was also referenced as a rebellious child. She was sent to prison early on in her life, although it's not clear what age she was. So whether or not she was over 18, I'm not sure. So this one might need a little more information, but I'm still going to score it a 1 based on her mother's description of her. For revocation of conditional release, she scored a 2. She did escape a Russian prison that she was sent for on murder charges, and she is difficult to track down, so they were unable to trace her and arrest her again. Villanelle also scored a 2 for criminal versatility. Her criminal acts include at least 36 murder victims that we know of, breaking and entering E's house, and escaping from prison. Also, her methods of murder vary greatly. Methods of murder include castration, by gun, electrocution, stabbing, and the list just goes on. This video would be an hour long if I listed all of them. All right, so now I'm going to talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of this analysis. Some strengths include, due to it being a TV series, there's a lot of content to use for, like, to analyze. Um, you can also see her actions before, during, and after committing her crimes. So it kind of gives you a deeper insight on, who she is, what her MO is. For weaknesses of this analysis, one of them is, with there being over 24 episodes, each episode being 40 minutes or longer, it is possible that I may have missed something. Also, if I had included, every piece of evidence in here about her, then the video would have been pretty long. So I did have to leave a couple things out. And also, due to it being, a TV series, there is limited information on her childhood and kind of her upbringing because they don't show any flashbacks or anything. So it was a little bit difficult to find information about that. So I just kind of had to use what I could find within the TV show. So, with Villanelle being a character from a TV series, I think it's important to talk about psychopathy in popular culture. Psychopathy in public media and pop culture is becoming increasingly more popular. Here's a quote from Hare's book, Without Conscience. He states, "We vicariously live out our fantasies through the actions of those willing to cross over to the wrong side of the law." And then another quote from him: "Cinema allows us to slip easily into the vicarious pleasure of the voyeur." So we're definitely drawn to psychopaths and psychopathy in popular media because we're able to kind of watch it and kind of learn about the minds of these individuals without actually being in immediate danger and without needing to worry about, the safety of ourselves and others. I feel like the show also does a good job in kind of capturing the darkness of psychopathy, and it does a great job of kind of exemplifying it in Villanelle. And I think it also does a good job in kind of adding layers of comedy over it. Right, so it's not like a horror movie; it's more of like a intense psychological drama, I guess. And that definitely makes it more widely attainable to, a larger general audience. So this case study of Villanelle does bring up the topic of gender and psychopathy, which we had discussed and learned about a little bit in class. In one of the Helfgott readings, it was stated that women are generally socialized to internalize their anger instead of showing it externally like men do. Um, some research suggests that the PCLR needs to be modified for women because they show psychopathy differently than men. Women psychopaths typically, have a sense of chronic self-criticism, unrelated to the shame or guilt of their crimes. They also typically target their criminal behavior towards their family. And then it was also stated in the Helfgott reading that female psychopaths generally do not show factor 2 items. However, in this case, Villanelle did score in all of the factor 2 items. So, in the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about how Villanelle compares to other female psychopaths, and kind of why this show got so popular with a female psychopath as the lead. So, Killing Eve was described as a dark psychological drama about sociopathy, a feminist procedural, and a British workplace comedy. So unlike other criminal shows, Killing Eve is unique in that it portrays a female investigator in search of a female psychopathic assassin. I feel like usually in popular media and TV shows especially, it's male detectives looking for male offenders. So this show does a great job in showing female detectives looking for female offenders. I also think it's important to take note of the fact that Villanelle shows psychopathy with typically male psychopathic traits. She shows all of Factor 2 traits, as mentioned in the previous slide, and she has criminal behavior targeted towards both her own family and strangers as well. She doesn't really have any agenda other than her own well being. She definitely shows high levels of narcissism. So, if we were to compare Villanelle to the two women psychopaths that we did case studies on, Diane Downs and Aileen Wuornos, Villanelle definitely shows higher levels of psychopathy in that she has many more victims. And then also, if we were to do a close comparison, while Diane Downs assumably killed her children with a goal in mind to be with a man that she quote unquote loved, Villanelle kills more as a job and could probably be more easily compared to Richard Kuklinski as being an assassin or killing people for money. But overall, I think it's important that we see more examples of female psychopaths in order to improve upon the current research that we have of them, because most of the current research that we have is based off of men. Thank you all for watching and have a great spring break.